Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Jian Sangachian, welcome to the Breakfast Show from London studio. As I always say, I hope this is Chaddi Kala de vich and have had a good week. So आज the Jira program हैगा. We have a very exciting program to bring you today. ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ that every week we try to bring very inspirational Jira guests हैगे who are doing some great work, whether it's in the community or whether they're doing it within the organisation that they're in. So आज the Jira guest हैगे, we have Optimum Thinking with us, who are in the studio to talk about stress resilience, hopefully for anybody that may be going for a stressful time in their life, or anybody that maybe isn't even stressed but just gets that slight bit of stress, as we always do. We're here to speak to them to find out how we can obviously not stress ourselves out, and we're going to be talking about a few other things as well. So let me go over and introduce them, and hopefully this will be a very educational and inspirational show for you. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome. Thank you so much after us trying to organise this for quite a while now and me having to change the date. But thank you so much for joining us on the Breakfast Show.
Thank you.
If I could just start really with a brief introduction on yourselves, your name, education, and what you do and how long you've been doing this for.
Sure. Shall I start?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Manmeet Kaur Chaudhary, and I have been doing optimum thinking kind of skills for nearly about 10 years, I'd say, after studying human behaviour.
Okay.
My background is, study-wise, I've done business management at university, and I did a career in sales since I was about 16 years old.
Okay.
So when I was in sales, like I was pretty much like top saleswoman, #1 saleswoman, you know, and I started to get really like good results for the companies I was working with. And then there was a time that like my sales just dropped.
Okay.
And you know, I started to go, well, what's going on here? But when I started to see what was happening, it was actually I was having a lot of emotional stuff to deal with.
Right.
And that was in my personal life. So as that started to happen, you know, I was like, I need to understand a little bit about what is this thing called life? How do you deal with emotions? You know, how do you manage this? And so that's when I started to study human behavior and started to apply some of the principles we're going to share with you today. And here we are today.
Very interesting. It's just interesting from listening to that, because I'd like to delve into that a bit later if we get time, but thank you. And Helen, if you could just give us a bit of an introduction.
Sure. I'm Helen Kemp. I live in Brisbane, Australia, so I'm really honoured to be on the show and to be in London. Find it very inspiring. My background's in education. First of all, the first half of my career was in the teaching field, and then the second half in organisational development. And as I look back, I realise I've always studied human behaviour. I was a visual arts teacher originally, so 13-year-olds with clay in their hands. I realised I was sort of interested in human behaviour to kind of keep that under control. But as I moved into leadership positions in organisations, I realised that organisations are all about the people, and really wanted to work out how to create more harmonious environments for people to work in, where they could have a more fulfilling career as well. And the work that we've studied in common has actually enabled that, but it also has a big spin-off in our families as well. So, and I'm very inspired to have come to London and partnered with Manmeet.
And how's your trip been so far in London?
Hectic. Really. We've run a series of workshops and we've done a series of interviews. We've run public workshops and workshops in organisations, as well as some private coaching sessions with one-on-one as well. So it's been really busy. I haven't done any sightseeing this time around, it's such inspiring work. I don't feel as I missed out, so I'd rather work with the people.
Well, can I just say you have an absolutely amazing accent, so it's nice for us in the UK to hear the accent. Exactly, because
I thought you had the accent.
No, do you know what, that's the thing, everybody says that to us and I'm just like, no, it's so dull. Seriously, you have such a nice accent. So you know what, so nice to obviously have you here in London in this cold weather that we have here. But you'll probably be going back to some really nice, lovely warm weather.
Super hot.
Yeah, super hot. Okay, we won't go into the weather. Actually, I'll get upset when I talk about this. But, you know, I guess I'd just like to know. So I noticed that you call yourselves coaches, but what is the difference between coaching and counselling or therapy? Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So the difference is we call ourselves coaches because we're not, the work we do isn't in traditional university systems. So we've actually gone outside of the traditional system to learn our skill set, and we never say to our clients that we replace traditional therapy. So if someone's seeing a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a counsellor of any sort, we always say to them, continue with that and get their permission if you want to do any optimum thinking work as well, because we certainly don't push any of those medical boundaries. We're not qualified in that area, and we just like people to know that up front as well.
And then what different situations do you provide coaching on then? If you could talk me through some of the...
The general scenario of what we coach on is to get people back into a position of empowerment. So when people are doing stress, it's usually because they have a sense of being disempowered somehow. So, and we'll talk about stress in a little more detail, obviously, but it's that sense of that. So it can be anything from a stress where things feel out of control in the family or work, in relationships. Also, it can be any kind of loss you might have experienced, like perhaps you've been made redundant, or you may have had a breakup in a marriage, something like that. So it's a wide variety of areas, but the common thread is really about helping people regain their sense of self-leadership and self-governance, and get their stress level back into a manageable state.
Do you ever get a time where you've had somebody who has a particular case study and is really stressed, and by the situation that they've come to you, do you ever go back feeling stressed about it? How do you actually deal with the different case studies that you get? Because just listening to you now, I'm thinking actually you deal with stress resilience, and that's a big thing. A lot of people probably come with different scenarios. How do you deal with it? And that's probably open to both of you, but
I mean, you might deal with it differently, but I think we kind of deal with it very similarly because of the work we've done, obviously, on ourselves. We're able to see the perfection of what's actually happening. I know, like a lot of this is already in Sikhi. We say that Jovi onda chevaste onda, and sometimes we question that. But if it's that kind of certainty that we hold, knowing that we can help someone, so we don't actually get emotionally attached to the problem, because we know that we are able to help them with the specific tools to get out of that, and actually see whatever they're experiencing is more like on the way and not in the way. And then you're able to actually Helen talks about this, like the state of gratitude, that you can actually help people get to, where in that moment you don't want anything to be different, and you just see it as perfect. That's really when you have that connection with, we say Vaheguru di Mehar, that kind of Mehar that we have. That's when you don't want the actual anything to be different. Right. So but it's the certainty that we hold when we're coaching, knowing that there is an absolute perfection in everything that we've experienced, and that experiences are just experiences, neither good or bad. They're just experiences that is actually what we're learning from them. That's the key thing. That helps us actually coach. Is there anything you'd like to add?
And Helen, what about yourself?
Probably the only extra bit I would add is from a little bit of neuroscience, just from the point of view of we see our job as working with clients and we're co-creating with them. So we don't think that we're fixing them because we don't think they're broken. They've just got unresourceful thinking. So our job is always just to help them shift their thinking to create new awarenesses. So therefore we don't need to get as emotionally involved with them, and that it's actually our job to keep our prefrontal cortex, which is like our executive centre, online when our clients may be in a very distressed state and they're emotionally upset. We kind of have to let them borrow our executive centre to help them process, so to keep in a very present state with them.
So, in a way, I guess, Manmeet, this might be maybe a bit something that you could maybe answer just from the aspect of Sikhi, we say about attachment, we shouldn't be attached to anything. In a way, is that, I guess what I'm trying to ask is that not the therapy, is that the solution that you try to give about attachment? Is it about not being attached?
It's a little bit, it's not like not being attached totally. It's actually like you're getting to a state of when you're just grateful. And when you're grateful, you can see how everything has served. And then you're almost not attached to which way it should go.
Right.
Because in the moment that you're attached to a certain thing being a certain way, you're questioning the work of God.
True.
Right? The God, universe, whatever we want to call it. Okay. So it's actually a questioning process that we help people see, that when you look at both sides of something, then you're able to get to that moment of actually, the way it went, I won, and it's there's nothing to change there. So there is that moment that you get to non-attachment once you balance your perceptions. That's the key thing here. It's about balancing them.
Thank you. We have our first caller calling in, so take our call. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Hello. Hi. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Deepa.
Oh, hi Deepa, thank you for calling. Do you have a question, or is it a case study that you're going to be sharing with us today?
It's really just sharing my experience that I've had with optimum thinking.
Okay.
and Mammy and Helen, yeah.
Yes, please. Do share that with us.
So I attended the foundation course a few weeks ago and then just completed the advanced course yesterday. Optimum thinking and DeMartini's work is something that I've been interested in for a very long time. And actually bit the bullet and did the course, and it was just an absolutely amazing experience. I just feel like it's helped me enrich so many areas of my life. I think one of the biggest thing I got from it was just the massive improvement I've seen in the relationship between me and my 7-year-old.
Right, okay.
So, you know, you can just imagine typical boy, 7-year-old,
Yes.
pushing my buttons constantly.
Yeah.
And I was having a real big power struggle with him. And I didn't quite realise how bad it had got, but realised that I was really emotionally tormenting myself about it all. And what the course did and what the girls made me see is just true clarity really around that area. And although outwardly nothing's changed, I can see internally I've just got this like level of peace with the whole situation, and I just see, you know, my boy's perfect as he is, and what I'm doing is perfectly right for him as well, and it's just that emotional charge around it's gone. And it's just been fantastic. I'd recommend it to every parent out there, to be honest. I'm really quite excited to see how this will play out in my children's lives going forward as well.
You know what, that's amazing, because I was just actually going to ask you what would be your message to the viewers that are watching, but you've just answered that to say that you'd recommend it. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you for your call.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Deepa.
Thanks, Deepa. Thank you. Oh, that's really good to hear, actually.
Yeah, it just gives us a bit of tears of inspiration when we're able to kind of help, you know, people like that, and you know, it's very inspiring.
Yeah, no, it is. So, you know, Sangaji, on that note, you know, we will be giving you more details of where you can go if ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ to find out a bit more, but we'll be bringing you the details later on as we have so much to get through. That leads on to my next question. So, you know, I noticed you call your business Optimum Thinking. Is that just like positive thinking, or is it something else?
So many years ago, like you know, I was into this whole positive thinking movement. You might still be, you know. So we're going to kind of tell you a little bit about that. So you'd agree, like, you know, positive thinking. If we just kind of visually take it, that it's up here, it's about being positive. Is that something you can maintain all the time?
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah. So I went through that kind of like trying to be positive, and all this negative stuff, as I said, was still happening, and I just, you know, didn't know how to deal with it. So to answer your question about why we've called the company Optimum Thinking is we see that positive thinking is, you know, lets you know what you do want in life. Right, okay. But you also need negative thinking. A lot of people go around trying to get rid of the negative thinking.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Yeah, okay.
So this would be good for me.
So the best way, when you actually see positive thinking tells you what you do want, negative thinking lets you know what you don't want.
True. Yeah.
And when you bring those actually together, you start to see how both thinkings, that in the positive and negative thinking, allows you to move forward in life. So you've got what you do want, what you don't want, and you bring that together, and that's kind of what a lot of people don't talk about. Yeah. Some people talk about balance, you know, Sikh talks about balance as well, which is, you know, one of the religions that talks quite a lot about it. But it, you know, sometimes we actually say, yes, it's great to be balanced, but even balance, like that straight line the whole time, is not actually obtainable. You'll have moments of perceptions that are balanced. Right. But the thing is, what happens when I was growing up, people would like, okay, they talk about balance, but nobody actually showed you how to get there, or how do you access those moments of balance. So we've decided to call it Optimum Thinking for that very reason, so that this is what we see as a way of thinking, a movement moving forward that can help you integrate both and understand why they're both needed.
Because for me, so optimum thinking, and not now because you've explained it, but, and I know there's another question that I have off the back of that one, but optimum thinking for me means straight away I have the word positive thinking straight away, as I was saying to you just before the show, that optimism and positive, I'd put it together, but I always think of it, it's even now, even me saying optimum thinking, I'm thinking of positive thinking. So I guess I want to kind of delve into that a little bit more. You know, you're saying the positive and the negative, you need them both together. Yes. Could you, is there maybe a story or something you can share as an example of how does it work together? And I guess, if you start here, what's the end result? What can you achieve by them two working together? Just so that our viewers can understand, but also just from this perspective of me sitting here to understand it a bit more.
Sure. So I'd give an example here of a client that I worked with who was 8 years old. So when we're saying they're working together, what we're saying is that when we have any reaction to something, we've made a judgment about something, we've made either a positive or a negative reaction to it. So if we've made a positive one, it's now out of balance because it's actually an infatuated result or an infatuated judgment. So we're going to use negative to bring that back down to balance. And if we've made, a positive, we're going to say, how did it not help me to bring us back down? So we're going to use negative thinking to bring it to here. If it's a negative, a perceived negative, we're going to use positive thinking to bring it back up to balance. But we're not making a negative positive or a positive negative. And there is no, one of our biggest challenges in our language, we don't have this middle language. So we're saying optimum for you at that moment in time. So the example I'd share as a short case study is the little 8-year-old boy. His mum brought him to me because I'd done some work with her and said, I'm not sure if you can help him, he's so young. I said, I'll give it a go. And he was really quite scared of going to school because the boys at school were throwing sticks at him, and they were the big boys, so they were a little bit older than he was. And he said, oh, they do it round the back where the teachers never come. And so I said in a much longer session than this, but it was basically, I said to him, so imagine God was helping you and the boys were actually your agents of the universe helping you in some way. What could be the good thing about having sticks thrown at you? And he said, stupid woman, there can't be anything good about that kind of thing. You just saw the look on his face. And I said, well, just imagine there was. And he thought about it for a while, and then he said, it makes me really good at dodgeball. Because he loved playing dodgeball, so he could see that positive about it. And I said, oh, that's excellent. I said, what else could it be? And he thought about it a little longer, and he loves football. And he said, oh, it makes me really good at dodging around the other players to play football or soccer. And I said, that's great. What else could it be? And then he thought a little longer, and he said, oh, I get really good at like finding the best place to throw myself on the ground. And I thought, that's interesting, I'm not sure what that's about. And I said, oh, that's really cool. I said, how does that help you? And he thought about it a little longer, and then he came back with, oh, when we go camping and we go bushwalking, I am really good at scanning the path, and I can spot snakes, so I can keep my little brother and sister safe.
So he really looked into the detail. So we push it through until they get enough value so they can see at that time it actually served me. And then he dissolved the charge, like the emotional reaction to what was going on, and he got back into action and went back to school quite comfortably. That's really interesting, because it just makes you think of things that you normally wouldn't. Because you wouldn't normally think of them. So that is really interesting.
It's really key. And what Helen's saying is, like, although she's using the words good, because with an 8-year-old you have to say what was good in that, so that they start, because if you start using words like what was the benefit in that to an 8-year-old, they might not start to process. But all you're doing is actually bringing that perceived negative back into, you're already aware of what the negatives are, so you're just stacking all the benefits until you can actually go, okay, that was just an experience, there wasn't any good or bad in that.
And that's really good, like you said. I really like the way that you've said there wasn't any good or bad in that, because that's what we tend to do as normal human beings. We always tend to look at, oh, this is really good for us and this is really bad. Like we put them into two piles, don't we? The good pile and the bad pile. And then sometimes we'll look at the bad things, which sometimes they're not bad, and actually they're fine, but it's good because you really look at the details. So I like that. So thank you for sharing that with me. So why is optimum thinking better than focusing on, and we've got a call now actually, so I'll come back to this question. So we've got a second caller now, so we'll come back to that. Waheguru ji ka khalsa, waheguru ji ki fateh. Hello, hi Chris.
How are you doing?
Hi. Are you calling for sharing a case study, or have you got a question?
I've been doing some work with Manmeet and Helen over the past month or so, I'm happy to share some of my experiences working with them and how I've found them beneficial.
Yes, please, if you could share them.
Right now?
Yes, Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, yep.
Sounds like we've got the perfect phone for.
Yes, so please share your case study, it'd be interesting to hear.
Okay, so let me just put my head on. So one of the key points that I've taken away from working with optimum thinking is actually understanding how my team works around me.
Okay.
So in the past, I've found working with certain people, it can be quite frustrating because they don't work at the same speed as me, or we just have very, very different learning styles. And since working with Manmeet and Helen, I've understood more that every team needs every style.
Yes.
So the person who's really, really detailed and checks every clause in a contract is very, very, very important. And just because I'm a million miles an hour, it doesn't make any one person more important, because without the detailed person, things could go wrong. So it's really allowed me to understand and given me patience, really, and sort of a newfound appreciation for other people in my team. Another byproduct of actually doing the work with them recently is it sort of brought up a couple of things for me of where I need to improve in life, in my business life specifically. I've always sort of prided myself on being a big blue sky thinker.
Oh, Chris, sorry, there's a lot of interference in the line. Sorry.
Is that better?
Yeah, we're going to have to. Sorry, we're going to have to cut the call because there's a lot of interference.
Okay.
Sorry.
Is that any better?
No, it's not clear. Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, Sangaji, line Sadi Jidi Sigi, there was a little bit of interference, so we've had a bit of technical difficulty there. Sorry about that, but maybe Manmeet, you might be able to emphasise on that a little bit.
Yeah,
sorry, there's a lot of interference.
Yeah, I mean, we've been working with Chris now for a while. We worked with his team. Mm-hmm. He's actually a very successful property developer and has a property investment kind of company. And the key things that he was kind of saying, what we did with the organisation and some of the key people, from top down, was actually something we call the master key with optimum thinking. And the master key is all about finding out what's most important to your employees. Okay. And this is not just for employees, this is for everyone. Okay, so like in your own family, in my family, in relationships, because we're in a relationship with everyone, be it friends or intimate or, work colleagues, we're in that relationship. So this master key is something we actually have a process that is, allows us to see what's most important to someone, right down to what's least important to someone. And that goes hand in hand with something could be really important to someone, and they also a different type of, like, as Chris was saying, somebody could be quite detailed. So it's actually finding out, what kind of an energy somebody prefers to work in, and along with what's most important. So this helps you basically in a work situation to make sure somebody's working in the right position. Yes. And then the key thing that we found, is that any emotional, blockages that people have or barriers going on, as I was saying, when I was working in sales, it had nothing to do with me not knowing how to sell. So if anybody at work has got anything going on outside, be it, relationship issues or sometimes even losing a loved one, we don't know how to deal with that. These things are going to play on in our mind. Yes. And when they're playing on our mind, nobody can say leave your stuff at the door. Everything comes to work with us. So he had his team work with us, and we were able to help them neutralize some emotions they had. And then as soon as they did that, they were, as Helen's used the words before, back from reaction into action. And that actually helped Chris's company in terms of increasing productivity. Amazing. And when you increase productivity, that for the company owners, you're going to increase their profitability as well. So, the income. That's amazing. So we've got a couple of minutes before break, but just really quickly, so touching on that as well. So going forward now, how has it been for Chris and the company, and has he shared this experience with other companies, and are you going to be going forward and dealing with other companies and doing the same thing with them? Yeah, I mean, we're looking to work with other companies as well. We want to get what we see as a vision for optimum thinking as well, as optimum thinking into organizations, so that in a workplace there's a different type of conversation. There isn't the kitsch kind of conflict happening, and when that happens, what do you do about it? Do you carry it on for days and months, and then eventually getting to, actually, I want to leave my job? So Chris, being lovely. He's just recommended us.
We've got 1 minute, sorry, to break, but we're not going.
Yeah, he's recommended us, so we are working with him and other companies as well. So absolutely, we're happy to work with any other kind of companies. Yeah,
brilliant. Thank you. Sorry, I've got Uncle in the earpiece, so we're going to be going for break. So we will be back after the break, where we've got lots of other questions as well, and a couple more case studies, I think, that you're going to share with us. So, Sangat, we're going to be going for a short break. Please do stay with us. Stay tuned. The Sikh Nahi Jana, as we have Helen and Manmeet here with us, who will be joining us after the break as well. So we've got a full hour with them. Join us after the break. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.